one of my big inspirations there was Gil Scott-Heron. Grew up on Gil. I thought to myself, what would it sound like if Gil was on house records right now? What if you took the energy of a, Whitey's on the Moon or something like that, where, you're being critical about literally the current administration, but doing it in a way that's entertaining, that's witty, that if I don't know any of the actual political underpinnings of this, it just feels good and it sonically sounds like something I can get with.
4 years ago, I had the delightful surprise of discovering the hip-house duo Dave plus Sam, a perfect combination of deep, warm vocal with committed lyrics full of love and festive, combined with an alternative and progressive house and dance beat. Since then, they carved out a very unique path in the music industry. And Dave, the performer and songwriter of the band, has collaborated with international stars such as Honey Dijon and Beyonce, winning several Grammys in the process. A very extraordinary career that has piqued my curiosity. Dave Giles II is my guest today. I'm Diane Marois. Welcome to my LA Chronicles.
Thank you so much for having me, Diane. That is such a beautiful introduction.
I'm so happy that we did it.
Yes, no, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Dave, as I read your bio, you start with this sentence. As a lifelong steward of the entertainment industry with a career centering service,
yes,
I believe in the transformative power of music on the human experience. What a statement. Can you explain it, please?
Yes, absolutely. Since I was a child, music has just kind of been this driving, force in my life. I know that a lot of people can relate to that. And I think that's kind of the idea, right? We can often soundtrack life experiences. We can remember special times, moments, memories. If I can think of, Michael Jackson, I Can't Help It. That's one of the first records that I can remember binging and falling in love with and associating it with like a specific time in my childhood because it just struck me so much and stood out to me so much. So I get that. Now that I've had the experience of, again, working with artists on such a large scale, of Beyonce and Honey Dijon, people will come to me and tell me, what you did on this song changed my life. I've seen it enough times to know that music absolutely, it's changed my life, but it absolutely changes other people's lives when they consume it and when they connect with a message or an image or a feeling or a vibration.
Definitely, that's something that links us, coming from overseas, digging your music. And
Right.
One day I found out your track that I love so much. And the video clip too, by the way. This is the track Facts.
Yes.
So strong. Can you tell me about the story of that track?
Yes. Oh, wow. Thank you. You're digging in the crates. Facts was inspired by the 2016 election in the United States. So when Donald Trump was elected, I'm sure you know, and I'm sure the world over, knows that was one of the most polarizing things that has absolutely happened in the history of this nation. My origins in hip hop, freestyling, battling is a part of that, and just the ability to, again, from off the top of your mind, narrate any situation. I had this light bulb moment of, what if somebody actually made essentially battled, right? Like not just speaking up against even Trump, the person, but what he represents, right? Which is, white supremacy at large, which is, xenophobia, racism, sexism. What does it look like to battle against that as opposed to dissing a person, dissing, a peer? And in terms of the imagery of it and even just the approach, one of my big inspirations there was Gil Scott-Heron. Grew up on Gil. Thought to myself, what would it sound like if Gil was on house records right now? What if you took the energy of a, Whitey's on the Moon or something like that, where, you're being critical about literally the current administration, but doing it in a way that's entertaining, that's witty, that if I don't know any of the actual political underpinnings of this, it just feels good and it sonically sounds like something I can get with. And then when Sam, which I mean, again, I credit Sam so much for my creativity as a lyricist and as a writer in the space to do that. But he came with these incredible gospel chords, courtesy of the Rhodes. And when I heard that, it took me to church and immediately went to, okay, well, what does this sound like if I'm actually on pulpit? If I am, like someone you would see on the street, on the corner, in any large urban center in the United States, preaching about whatever the topic of the day is with that fervor and that fire and that energy.
Yeah.
And they don't care who's looking, who's watching. They're not embarrassed. They're not ashamed. All that matters is the message.
Rumor has it this old Beetlejuice looking ass, penguin pantsuit, wearing snow cone, poop with boots, got your goof ass to vote against clean air, affordable health care.
Sam, I got to give him this credit as well. On the visual, he said, "Hey, let's do it again for the visual, but let's actually get out in the street and do it for real." And again, me coming from hip hop, it's nothing to stand on a corner and talk. Can I swear?
Yes.
And talk shit.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do that. And so, kind of bringing it all together. It was
fun that you
amazing.
asked for that, because I know you can't do that in US, but in Europe we accept that.
Okay.
We're more large in the mentality,
Noted.
But in the meantime, you were successful enough to sign in with Honey Dijon, with Beyonce. How is it to work for them? How is it to write for someone else?
Yeah.
Because that's what you've done.
Absolutely.
And what was your process?
I have a belief that when you create something, the second that you put it out in the world, it belongs to them.
Yep.
And you can't have it back. As a writer, kind of understanding that about my own voice, from hip hop, I often was from a first person perspective, but with dance, I realized the opportunity. I can speak to a number of shared experiences, and I have less room to do it in, so I have a chance to really make it concise, make it hit, and really make points that connect immediately.
Comfortable in my skin, cozy with who I am.
Very interesting. And especially in the case of Beyonce on the album Renaissance, which was really a surprise for a lot of people,
Right.
that she adores house music.
Yes.
But what was the process you imagine for Beyonce to go to that music? Why she wanted to make an album of house music?
I think she understood that the world needed this music. And when you get into the context of now we, have kind of heard the narrative, and we know that her Cowboy Carter album, this country themed album, was done mostly before that. But again, someone with just her level of vision and her level of connection to the people could say, well, the people need this more than they need that right now. So let's actually lean into this and give them that release, give them that feeling that they did not have during the pandemic. And,
Yes.
just with ultimately, with all the different, the instability happening worldwide, wars happening worldwide,
We need something
we need something to just release,
Yeah,
into
absolutely.
it. So I think she understood that.
For all the young kids watching that interview right now, and they're curious about how such a big star reach out to any kind of, songwriter, producer, how it goes.
I would say this: if you have that thing that you do, and people like it, but you have a small following, but people like it, and what you do is different, you are what I like to call painting where it ain't. Meaning, it's niche, it's unique, it's yours. Keep doing it. Learn from what's around you, build, adapt, grow, but keep doing it. Because truly, when we did You the Shit Girl, there's so many labels. In fact, labels, and I won't mention, but labels who were even instrumental in the first wave of hip house. Tyree, Fast Eddie, like that sound, who were telling us this doesn't work. The industry
It's not ready.
isn't ready for this. This doesn't make sense. There were so many people who sent that to us over that journey. And it wasn't until 4 years of pitching that demo, we finally make a video. An independent entity, New Math Records, finds it. They put remixes behind it. Derek Carter, who else was on there? Seven Davis Jr. They put remixes behind it. Luke Solomon finds that. Luke Solomon, Defector Records, makes the connection and says, I have no idea who you are. We have no back story on you. Where did this come from? But the music is undeniable, and this sound is what we've been looking for. Keep going down that path. Eventually, you know, as we're doing these Dave and Sam records and kind of building out this concept, okay, we see what you're doing. Come and work with Honey.
By the way, big shout out to Luke Solomon. I don't know you, but I would love to meet you one day because I'm also influenced by your work.
Hey, cameras.
Yeah.
Luke, if you're seeing this,
We love you.
you gotta holler at Diane, okay? You gotta holler at Diane, all right? But, you know, and Luke is one of those people, he has that vision, you know? He saw, you know, you bring up a native tongues. He had that vision in 2016, in 2017, well, I guess 16 and 17 when we first were talking. He saw at our shows in New York, seeing a Latasha in real time, seeing a Carice in real time, seeing how they played into the, you know, the records that became No Shade. He said, okay, this is a movement. This is not just what you all are doing. This is a sound, and so the idea of taking that and kind of harnessing that and implementing that into what Honey was doing, and Honey trusting, you know, me and her trusting Carice to contribute in so many ways to, you know, her project. For then Honey being this international superstar that, again, in the dance community, we all know her to be, but even if the rest of the world is just now starting to figure that out, of course, Honey is being watched by a Beyonce. Of course, her peers are peers with Beyonce's peers. And so, you know, the same process that I went into to say, okay, I am now writing for Honey Dijon. I'm writing towards something that's bigger than, you know, just my person. Honey represents, you know, freedom. Honey represents love. Honey represents self-love. Honey represents style, cool, fashion, musical history. Again, Black girl magic. Honey represents all of these things. Honey represents, you know, the queer community at large and all of the different, you know, forms and shapes and identities that comes in. And so if I can release all of my ego and all of, you know, my hubris to give to that, to give voice to that, then it really wasn't that much of a surprise when the phone call came that, you know, hey, what, you got 72 hours, you know, NDAs, and let's get this thing done.
That has to be a moment in your life.
Oh,
Oof.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you had other collaboration with other artists, less well known than Beyonce, but so far very good. One of them is with Turbo Jazz.
Yes.
And Turbo Jazz is this Italian producer doing beautiful music. And you made that track together. Remember the track?
Stay Balanced.
Stay Balanced.
Off the top with the lecture, head to toe with the textures. Friend or foe, I ain't either or, but I'm with the shits and the extras.
Digging in the crates. I love it, man. Thank you.
So good. You know, I love that track so much.
Yeah.
So I would like to know two things. What was the spirit of that title of that track? And at the same time, what do you think about the hip house scene in Europe?
You know what? The scene actually gives me so much hope for just this wave that we're all, you know, building and cultivating. And I think it's going to take more kind of, again, cross-cultural connections like a record like that for us to realize that we're all here. With the Turbo Jazz, you know, Tommy, shout out to Tommy, I love you, brother. You know, again, he was a fan of what I was doing. He reached out. And when I initially listened to some of his records, I got it, you know.
About your latest release, Pick Up the Pace.
Yes.
You know, made me think about a track from '89 from a very well-known Belgian group.
Oh, school me.
And, you know, the title of the track was Pump Up the Jam.
Pump up the jam.
jam, pump it up.
Yeah.
So, did you like dig in those beats of those times to do it, or what kind of beats are you exploring now with sound?
Yeah, so
It was new beats. That was the title of that music at the time.
that's incredible. So I gotta say, Pump Up the Jam directly was not an influence in that. However, there is that period of dance records that kind of were bigger than the scene, or bigger than the rooms and then the venues that they were originated out of, right? So if we can kind of find the soul of all of those things, you can pull them into anything, and that's musicology, right? And so that's what I'm trying to do when we make those records. So for Pick Up the Pace, the thought absolutely was, let's do something that, you could hear at a sporting event. You could, kind of have this, the compilations, I think we'll call it Jock Jam or something like that. Something that could feel like that, but that doesn't feel cheesy to us, and that still feels true to what we do and our style and what we're saying. And Sam pulls from so many different places to create. Again, he's a student of house in all of its true forms, but he's looking at what's happening, internationally.
Yeah.
He's a student of jazz. Sam plays almost every instrument.
Sam, big up to you. We would have loved to have you today. We think about you.
Absolutely.
That's your other half.
Yes, yes, my God. He's brilliant. His knowledge of music and the ability to play and to transpose, from genre to genre is impeccable.
You are surrounded by a crew of artists such as Coco and Breezy, Curry's, Life on Planet.
Yes.
Looks to me as a galaxy of artists which mix a certain kind of music and also a specific visual creativity. How would you describe that trance, let's say, that scene? How would you describe it?
I mean, well, for one, it's a galaxy of stars.
Wow, that's beautiful.
No, but, I think that at the core of it, you think about the roots of this music, right? And it comes out of Black spaces, it comes out of brown spaces, it comes out of queer spaces, and it was opened up to the world. And what comes with those realms is not only just our style, our cool, our, creativity, but it's also your blues, right? It's the rhythm and the blues. And so it's the narratives that come out of those upbringings. You don't get a Follow Me without certain narratives that come out of, that come out of our communities. You don't get a, Devotion by 10 City being paired with Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech and run, in clubs and on broadcast radio without the connection, right, to, again, the cultural aspect of what's going into the music and then the actual music itself.
Would you say that this scene that you're part of and you're representative is kind of a voice for a generation or for a community right now?
We would love to be. We would love to be. And I, know that there aren't official meetings where we're discussing this in this regard, but I think the spirit that I get from all of our communications and whether we're working on a record or just talking about, our own challenges or our own wins, right? We would absolutely love to be. I think we all see ourselves as part of the lineage of those roots of dance music that, again, have been repackaged, repurposed, and oftentimes forgotten. We see ourselves as descendants of that, but not just in tribute, but also progressing it and taking, all of that, but then also adding the different things that, have influenced us over the decades since, and fusing it all together intentionally and doing it in a way that I believe is intended for, again, it to be abundantly clear that, this is the future of this music, but also it's the past of this music and it's the present of this music all at the same time, right?
What would be the message that you would like the listeners and maybe more the youth to keep in mind from your movement and your music and your vibe? Because it's more or less a vibe.
Absolutely. You can't have the rhythm without the blues.
Love it.
Let's go. Let's go.